G'day all, Mod from Mod's Scale Models. Today we're going to talk about primer. Yeah, I get lots of different sort of private messages about what primers to use, what not to use, how to thin them, all that stuff. So today we're going to cover it. But before I do that, I want to thank everyone for the video I put out on how to polish scale models like a pro. It's gone gangbusters, and thank you so much. So I thought, we'll continue with the how to prime like a pro. So I'll get set up and I'll be back in a second. All right, what primer do I use? So the 500 Mr. Surfacer. Okay, I'll just spin that around so you can have a quick little look. All right, that's my primer brand of choice. Not sponsored. Wish I was, but I'm not. Look, Mr. Hobby, they make some really cracking products for our hobby world. What's it used for? This one's used for filling in and small fine to deep panel lines and scratches and that sort of stuff. It's what you'll hear me often refer to as a high build primer. It's not a high build primer as such as an automotive high build, but it sort of keeps it sort of simple for me to sort of understand. So it's what I call a high build primer. All right, so that's the 500. So I use that when I'm doing like the Fat Boy. Lots of priming, rubbing down, fine scratches, horrible little marks on it. This is your bad boy. And we'll talk about thinning once I've introduced this range, okay? So that's the 500, right? The next one is Mr. Primer Surfacer 1000, right? This is what you'd consider your regular primer, right? Just for your normal priming and rubbing down, sanding back. This is your go-to, all right? Your go-to, all right? So if you've got, say if your body's had a little bit of scuff marks on it and you've rubbed them back the best you can, going up through the grades of primer, through the grades of sandpaper, and you miss a couple of stages and you get a couple of fine scratches, that's your bad boy. All right, that's your bad boy. So that's the 1000, all right, and the 1200, right? This is fantastic for straight out of the box plastics to give them it's what I call a one-shot primer. Put it on and then go straight in for color. Very good under base coat, all right? And that's about it, really. Super fine, goes on, like I said, one shot. Put a coat on, just don't rub it down. Put your base coat or your top coat color straight on. Happy days. Right, let's talk about leveling. All right, leveler. It doesn't show up on my screen. Mr. Color Level Thinner, all right, 400. This is the bad boy I use on all my painting, right? So what does leveler thinner do? It obviously thins the paint out, right? So you can get it through comfortably through one of these bad boys, okay? I'll put that back there a bit, right? But what it also does, it slows down the drying and allows your top coats and your clears and your primers, right? And your base coats to a degree to flow out, all right? So you're minimizing your orange peel, right? Now, I'm going to do how to paint like a pro with color. And I'll go into that in more depth in another video. But this video is predominantly for priming, okay? So if you're going to be spraying primers out of an airbrush, right? And you're new to the game, or you might already know all this stuff, and that's okay, but there's a lot of people who don't. you need an airbrush and you need to use level thinner with your primer. Okay, so with the, say, primer. Now, with the primer surface of 500, you really need a 0.3 or higher, all right, needle setup, all right? Now, in this bad boy, I run a 6.3 because I think I've told you before, I'm an automotive spray painter by trade, right? So I tend to want to use a bit more volume, and I control the amount of volume that goes on also with my distance, okay? So obviously you could turn it right in going closer. I tend to paint back a little bit, and I control my volume with a little bit of distance, if that makes sense. That's for me. But ideally, you want a 0.3 needle or larger for your 500. All right. And now, nearly forgot. You want a 1-to-1 thinning ratio. Okay. So one part primer to one part leveler. All right. If you go too much, then what's going to happen? And I won't go too technical, right? What will happen if you put too much thinner in your primer? It's going to end up like a primer surface. It's potentially going to end up like a 1200 or maybe even a 1500. So it's going to be runny. It's going to have no build. And really, it is primer. You don't want to flow it out like top coat, okay? It's not designed to be flowed out like top coat, right? Because you rub it back, right? And you're, like I said, with the 1200, that's pretty thin. So you can spray that straight out, and then when that'll level out itself because it's thinned out. And like I said before, color, base coats, straight over, right? So that's for that one. And the distance, look, 2 to 4 inches. Okay, for spraying, all right? That'll get you out of trouble, all right? I'll set up the next one. All right, so what I probably didn't say for the previous one, the 500, you kind of want 25 PSI, okay, in your little air compressor. And I'll do a really detailed on how to set up your gauge. All right, a little tip of the trade that I learned how to set them up, right? So that when you're on the gun and you pull the trigger, you got the exact PSI. Okay, so 20 to 25 PSI on the 500. Sorry, I didn't say that before. And now we're into the 1000. So you kind of want a 3 mil or larger. All right, 3 mil or larger. So for your primer surface, right? I'll still use this bad boy set up, and but your 0.3 that'll be fine. My other gun, which is my Old Faithful, that I just use that for general purpose and that sort of stuff. That's a 0.3, and that's fine for this one. I wouldn't even attempt it on the 500, but that's fine. All right. So your PSI for your 1000, you're looking around 18 to 22 PSI. All right. And lay down 2 to 3 thin coats. Don't pile it on. Like I said, it's not designed to be flooded on like water. All right. So that'll get you going without going into too much technical jargon. 1-to-1 ratio with the 400. All right. So the next one, I'll keep it rolling. How's this set up? The next one is the 1200. Now, 3 mil or finer on your airbrush will be perfect for your 1200. 3 mil for me is absolutely a no-brainer. All right, 3 mil tip. Okay, so that's your nozzle set up with your tip. Okay, look, a lot of people don't have multiple tips, so you've got to work out. Excuse me, you've got to work out. If you've got like an everyday airbrush and it's a 0.3, and can you get away with a 0.3 for most things? Yeah, you can. I mean, even with your with your 500, you might need to thin it out a little bit, and just remember it's going to lose some of its build power, but you can thin it out a little bit. You just might need to put on some more coats to allow for it. All right, so a 0.3 will be absolutely fine, but we're talking the best setups here, right? And most of your top end guns come with multiple different. This one particular has multiple different setups, all right? So I can run all the way through to 0.65 down to 0.35, and I think I'm down to 2.5. I think. I've never gone down that low. I don't worry about it. So that's your 1200, right? And right, now, primer. So that's your thinner. We've talked about, get yourself some of that. You can get it on eBay. I took the price tag off a while ago, so this is a new one too. I should have left that on there to show you. So now, flash off times between coats, right? At least 5 to 10 minutes between layers, right, is what you're looking for, right? Don't be a bull at the gate. Let it dry out, because what you've got to do is every time you put a coat of primer on, you've got to let the solvents out, okay? And they've got to escape, right? If you just put on a wet flooded, it takes forever for it to escape. And also, you can end up with bubbles and little pinholes in the primer where it's skinned over, and then the solvent pops, and it leaves a fine pinhole in your primer because you've loaded it up and you haven't let it dry out properly, right? Best thing to do is get your iPhone, set your timer, and go for it. Hey, I do it. I do it all the time. I work with the products, and I work with the data sheets and what they say, and you just don't have any problems, right? So I set my timer, bang, time for next coat, right? So there you go. So if you do it that way, 5 to 10 minutes between layers, final coat, cure fully in around 24 hours, all right? I tend to leave mine, especially when I'm doing custom work and I'm using this bad boy. With this bad boy, right, I'm chucking it out there, and I leave it at least minimum 10 minutes between coats, and I might leave it a couple of days to let it fully cure, okay, just because of the build-up, right? So it's really important to build it up in stages, all right? So I've tried to keep that, as simple as I can without getting too technically and technical for you. So there you go. They're the basic products. So from there, that wraps it up. Thanks for listening. If you like this sort of content, like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll get back to you. I'll make it a real big effort to get back to people when they take the time to send a comment to me. I've got the time to send one back. So I really appreciate your support, and don't forget to subscribe if you like my content. And in a up and coming video, I'll show you how I prime up and all that stuff. And like I said, we'll do a color one as well. So cheers.